Good morning, fellow traders. Happy Monday. Black Coffee Trader coming to you here on the 23rd day of February with our daily trade plan and outlook for what we see across the indices this morning. And wow, welcome to the channel once again. I don't mean that as in YouTube channel. I mean that is in the structure channel of these markets. We are definitely still in the sideways trend, and I think we can pretty much do the analysis for all four indices with the NASDAQ. We're going to go through all four of them, but what we can see here is, personally, I'm leaning neutral to maybe leaning more bearish. I can't help but notice this big glaring double top high that we had last week on Wednesday and Friday. We've got a big double top there that really is a previous low turning it into new highs. So this is a very bearish structure. Here we had this area which was sitting above this double top, and we've turned that into a new high, which is really probably pushing or boding towards a downtrend in this market. The other thing that you see is we have the daily 20 sitting right above this double top. You've got the daily 50 and the daily 100 sitting above price on the NASDAQ. The other thing that is a bit of a concern is the daily 200. This is a big moving average. Daily 200 is now sitting right underneath of price. And so this could cause a very difficult market for the next couple of days. It really could. I would not be surprised to see some nasty price action for a couple of days. You couple all of this information with the tariffs in the news once again, potential increasing in tariffs, this uncertainty around tariffs. You've got the global tensions with Iran. I just think that we might see another week of just some crazy action. Will there be opportunity? Sure. Will it be difficult? Probably. I think for me, I'm kind of right back in the same trend I was last week. I need to see a break above these highs for me to really get excited about a long. If you do that, you know that you're longing into the daily 20, daily 50, daily 100. Not a very enticing trade. But it is possible. To the downside, if we break these lows from the last several days or last week's lows, if you break that sets up a potential short. You're shorting right into that daily 200. I don't like that. If you break below the daily 200 and we break below this level around the 24,500s, 24,450s, now I think you have a legitimate shot at a very big trade to the downside. So I think for me on NQ today especially may be more of a kind of a sit out day and wait and see what happens. We need something to move, and do we get that even today? I don't know. But we need something to move this market outside of this. I would love to see something up into this area once again, or a break below some of the structure down below. I think our trading would become a little bit easier if we got out of this range right here that we've been sitting in. So that's the picture. That's the picture that we see on NQ. ES, it's pretty much the same thing. You've got these recent lows turning into new highs. You've got that double top sitting right here that we talked about on NQ. The same thing as on ES. That really just leads to a structure shift like this. We're looking for downside there. If you get above here, if you can break this double top on ES, I do think that sets up a much better long, because we would now be above the daily 50, daily 20 moving average. The daily 100 is sitting right at price as we speak here at 7:30 on Monday morning. Well, it's actually 7:40, but the price is sitting right at that daily 100 level. So I think we'll see where this market opens up. If we open up below here, we might look to see a more immediate downside. If we open above, maybe we test this area and see. Now, the other thing that a lot of people are probably going to be looking for, and it could be a potential, I should have talked about this on NQ, is you could get a pop and a fade of this level right here. The problem with that for me is you're going to fade right into this nasty area. And where do you take your profit? And I just think that could be a very difficult trade. I think, again, the better short on ES is getting below the low from Friday, Thursday, and this low from last Wednesday. If we can get below there, I think we do have a really nice shot at downside on ES, probably more clearly than we see on NQ because of that daily 200 sitting below price on NQ. We don't have that. We do have the daily 200 sitting below price on ES if you go to the daily chart, but it's sitting all the way down here. We're trading in this area, and that daily 200 is sitting all the way down here around the 6660s. Is that the, yeah, 6660s. So we do have some room to roam, so to speak. So I do think the better trade, and that's probably the bigger watch for me today, is do we get this to set up on the ES? Do we get a break of this lower structure from last week? I think that's the number one watch. The number two watch is, do we pop out of this, and do we get a break and a long opportunity above this double top high from last week and above this daily 50, daily 200? So I think for me personally, watching ES and seeing if this trade or this trade sets up is probably going to be more important for me than what the NASDAQ does. I think there's too much uncertainty on NQ, and I think we need to, for me, I'm going to be looking at ES to give me the direction today. And probably, as long as price stays in this type of a range, I'm probably going to be looking at this to see for the week, what do we do as far as ES goes, ESNQ. Dow Jones is actually quite similar. It is very, very similar. You do have the daily 20 sitting right in the middle of all this mess. You do have a little bit more of a difference in some of these highs, but here you have these lows from a couple of weeks ago turned into new highs. Again, that is bearish structure. You do have a lot of highs coming in around this area. Around the 48,000 level. Is that the 48,000? I can barely read sometimes. 49.8. That 49.8 area is a pretty big area. So again, you could see a pop and a fade of that, but you're fading right back into this mess. I do think a break above this low from back here on, what day is this? The February, about the 8th through the 12th. If you can get back above these lows for upside, I think that's your better look. To the downside, it's pretty clear that if we lose this low that we've had for the last couple of weeks, if we lose that, that's a great short opportunity. So if you think about what we just talked about over the last couple minutes here, I think the short and the long opportunity from ES, probably more the short than the long. And then this potential short that we were looking for last week that hasn't set up yet, I think those could probably be some of our top watches today, and maybe for the rest of the week, to see, does this short set up here. Now, let's go to the Russell and kind of finish up our analysis for today. The Russell is maybe the outlier. Again, I am neutral though, not totally stuck on this, but like I talked last week, I think the upside is maybe a little bit more here on the Russell than what the downside is. You do have a little miniature lower high forming here, but by the same token, you've also got some of these highs sitting above here that we need to break for further upside. So you could take a long off of some of these areas, these little intra-week highs that we had. You could do that, but then you're longing right into these highs. So I think, again, the best long is to wait until we get above the Friday high, above some of these last week highs. If we can break that structure, you probably do have a nice long trade. The downs, it just doesn't look quite as bearish on the Russell. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be. Again, if you break below these lows that we had from last week, you're shorting right into the daily. I think this is the daily 100. I get these confused all the time. Let me just look at the. So the yellow is the daily 50. No, it is the daily. Yes, it is the daily 50 on the Russell. I need to double check those. So anyway, here's daily 20, here's daily 50. You're shorting into that 50, but if you break that 50, again, that could set up a nice downside trade. So I think just looking at that, we've got a couple of shorts that we're really watching. The bigger watch here is what happens around these lows. On the Dow Jones, same thing with ES, what happens with these lows from last week, and then also on ES, do we break the daily 20, daily 50 moving average and this double top high from last week? Those are the three big areas that we're going to be looking at today, and I think that may give us direction. That doesn't mean that we don't take a trade on NQ or the Russell, but that's also dependent on what happens here on ES and the Dow Jones. So that's the outlook for today. Hopefully we get a trade. We didn't get a trade on Friday, which was fine. Not being in a trade is an important thing as well if it doesn't fit our game plan. So that's the mentality I'm taking into the trading day today and for the week. And the goal here is to find a great setup and then let the trade work. So best of luck to you today. Thanks for following along. Appreciate you guys. Until next time, take care and so long.